of her sermon is, and I love it, Adulting 101, Faith Journey.
Hi guys, before I begin, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited. Is this volume okay? Yeah,
Good.
okay. So I shall start. Once upon a time, religions existed. They came in all forms, from cyan to sapphire to ocean blue. Each color, with its own merits, would fight to convince you that it was the best color. That's where I was born, into a loving family of traditional Indian Catholics. I was a little retreat kid, super nerd on Bible facts. I was a bit of a naive idealist, really. I honestly believed everyone was truly just trying to love God, love others, and be good. Luckily, I was gifted with the ability to think thoughts. Well, I thought, you know what really doesn't make a whole lot of sense? There are so many going hungry or poor, and there are a lot of orphans with terrible living situations. Why is everyone always fighting about abortions and marriage purity instead? The math just really isn't adding up on this one, I thought. How is this the right method of showing love? It's very ineffective. Maybe, just maybe, we're the ones that are doing it wrong. Though Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, most Hindus acknowledge that God is God. The entity of Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, this worship and try to know, is in essence the same divine spirit that they worship and try to know, Hindus. Kind of weird how those dudes just cannot stop killing each other, though. What a bunch of weirdos. We're always fighting over differences when we're a lot alike, always saying what we're against and never what we're for. And then one day I turned 21. Oh, well, I guess I'm an adult now. For those of you that don't know, this now meant that I was now personally responsible for any incorrect, albeit well-intentioned beliefs and worldviews. Some guy in funny clothes told me this once, and I never actually looked it up for myself in 21 years. Wasn't really gonna fly anymore, I decided. Perhaps I should have higher standards for the truths I was willing to live my entire existence by. There's this neat feature about adulting, the one where your naivete is torn to shreds and the world belittles your aspirations and dreams. Remember that? Well, between that and the part of adulting process where you realize no one can stop you if you want to eat cake for breakfast, it dawned on me this swell invention called lying. Lying is like a life hack where you can get things without effort and claim things confidently without their being true and without credibility. You probably also find out that people lie all the time. Sometimes it's not on purpose. Sometimes they believe they're right. Other times people state facts that are just preferences on how they choose to live their life. Regardless of intention, I believe it to be prevalent because, well, it works really, really well. By default, I think people just naturally want to trust each other. But they don't have a big, strong, super wrinkly brain like me. So it became an individual responsibility I willingly took up to search for truth, or at least whatever fragments I managed to find. Electroencephalographic activity, EEG, indicates the designation between the ages of 0 to 7 as programming years. During these years, our children will spend most of their time in alpha and theta brainwave cycles. The brainwave pattern an adult is in during hypnosis or meditation. So yeah, we just kind of assume that what we learned in childhood is true. Funny little observation. Turns out that parents are just people. They were just out there trying, hopefully trying their best though. Therefore, it would be logical to believe that although my mom is inarguably cooler than every other human being that's ever existed, even she might be susceptible to being wrong. Armed with this alarming realization, I began to pursue what I like to call the Rene Descartes part of my journey. You know, the I think, therefore I am guy. I decided I had to pursue truth. So I needed to dismantle any belief that anybody wearing funny robes told me, or anything where the gallery of evidence primarily rotated around the premise of, dude, just trust me. Even the stuff that made sense, I decided, would have to be able to withstand the judgment of my reason. After all, truth didn't need me to defend it. A beautiful characteristic of truth is that it stands strong and true, infallibly irrelevant of your belief in its wisdom. The alternative was laughable, even in my overconfident youth brain, that the nature of existential truth wouldn't be able to handle the scrutiny of a 21-year-old little woman. I was like, okay, cool. So like, how do I even know that I'm real? I'm not quite as sophisticated or logical as Descartes, so I just kind of went ahead and took a leap of faith and decided I was real. And you know, it's my personal journey, so it made sense to take some philosophical liberties with contemplating my personal reality. Still, for a few months, I would just take these really long, several-hour walks in nature, ruminating over my thoughts. Actually, all things considered, I think a few months is a very effective timeline for understanding the basics of one's existence and super useful to boot. 10 out of 10 would highly recommend. Anyway, this was a venture to find personal truth, so I just kind of decided other people were real too. They and I were connected, partially by just being on the same terrestrial hovercraft, but connecting us was some thingy. UU calls that the interconnected web of existence, which once again, wow, on the semantic sophistication. That is some good diction. Yeah, the thingy, the universal divine benevolent energy. Made sense to me that that was God. I decided I loved and was spiritually connected, bonded, and committed to this community network. And since God, the universe, humanity, and I were clearly connected, I went ahead and decided to love them all. For those who, like me, don't quite understand the nature of human relationships, I have this super basic formula I use. It's missing like a ton of variables, but it works like at least 80% of the time. So relationship is a product of effort over time. I bring this up because in a stroke of genius that I guess must have come from me, I realized that if you love God, I think you're supposed to like hang out with him, spill the tea, share experiences, and go to where he lives to go play. So at that time, I took up this super weird hobby where I would travel across the valley and randomly walk into churches, chapels, temples, and any place of worship. See which parents, aka the people who paid rent, would let me pray there and chill with my homeboy girl universal entity. Honestly, as an optimistic little Catholic girl, a little Christian girl, I was sorely disappointed. Most of these churches don't even have an open door policy. Like you can't even go inside and pray in like 90 to 95% of them, which is kind of cray. So basically, there were two religious institutions that really impressed me. I mean, I hit up like 30, so that's kind of super duper sad. Super duper sad. So yeah, one day I was telling my coworker about this, and he was telling me about this different church he went to once. He was saying how they believe that all of us came from the same dude universe. Dude universe. And he mentioned that if he was to be part of any institutional religion, it would be that one. I respected him a lot, so I kind of felt like if he thought it was worth checking out, I should go check it out. I checked it out that week itself because hashtag carpe diem. Oh, to have been that young and full of reckless abandon. Anyway, it was totally worked out. I went to the discussion group and it was a bunch of amazingly woke, super empathetic individuals that somehow seemed way smarter than me. They offered me coffee and free access to all the valuable life lessons they probably worked really, really hard to learn. And like, I'm lazy, so if I can learn how to live an awesome life without having to toil and go through trauma, I'm so down. After the intellectual stimulation, they then offered me some more free coffee. As I was making a mental note that these people really, really liked their coffee, I was introduced to Carolyn, Doug, Tom, insert your name here if I missed it. I think I was like 23, so they introduced me to the youth. At that time, that was Marcus. And Marcus is so old, he knew Burger King when he was still a prince. But still, dude's chill. So he gave me a tour of the whole place, and everyone I met was awesome, wonderful, and warm. But more importantly, they kept offering me coffee and let me drink it during service. And well, yeah, growing up being told not to fidget in church, this was like a huge 180 in church mannerisms. Service was beautiful, and I had a fantastic experience. I was working nights at the time, so I couldn't stop being a zombie long enough to attend regularly. But after coming back to the land of the living, I fondly remembered the lovable weirdos I met at UU and decided if I turned out like the churchgoers of this particular fellowship, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And she thrived happily forever after. The end.
Thank you, Meera. That was wonderful. We love you. Please join in singing our offering.